You ever notice how silence in the mountains feels heavier than it should? It doesn't soothe you. It waits, like the forest itself is bracing for something. That was the kind of morning I was having when the knock hit my cabin door. Sharp, impatient, way too formal for a place miles from pavement. I was mid-sipping my first cup of coffee, watching the steam twist upward like it was fleeing the mug, when the pounding came again. "Open up. This is official HOA business." A voice screeched. Now, for context, my cabin isn't part of any HOA. That's literally why I bought it. But the nearby gated development, Pine Ridge Estates, sat close enough that their residents sometimes wandered through my woods, usually harmlessly, emphasis on usually. I opened the door, and there she was. Karen in full ceremonial display, blonde bob lacquered into battle armor, a clipboard sharp enough to qualify as a blade, sunglasses so mirrored I could see myself regretting the next 15 minutes. "Can I help you?" I asked, sipping my coffee like I wasn't already exhausted by her energy. "You can," she replied, shoving past me like she owned the deed. "Your yard is in violation." "Violation of what?" She strutted to my window like she was about to deliver a keynote speech. "Pine Ridge Estates HOA guidelines forbid unregistered outbuildings, unauthorized fences," and she paused, stabbing a finger toward a yard that was my best friend, Mark, stacking firewood like the decent, helpful man he is. Karen sucked in a gasp like she had just uncovered a criminal empire mid-operation. Unapproved labor on HOA land. "It's my yard," I reminded her. "I don't live in Pine Ridge." She blinked. Once. Twice. Then her mouth pinched into the expression of a printer experiencing catastrophic error. "Well, your property is visible from Pine Ridge," she declared. "Therefore it becomes our issue." Before I could fire back, she whipped out her phone and punched in 911. Yes, emergency. "Suspicious men performing construction in a restricted area," she announced, glaring at Mark like he was stacking cartel-grade contraband. "Ma'am," I began, but she raised her hand like she was the self-appointed sheriff of the forest. And then she did the last thing I expected. She stomped outside toward Mark, hand buried in her purse, eyes blazing with righteous nonsense, and everything unraveled quicker than I could get a word out. The first sound I heard was Mark's laugh. Warm, easy, the one he used when someone was being wildly dramatic. "Ma'am," he said, leaning against a log, "I'm pretty sure stacking wood isn't illegal." Karen didn't smile, didn't flinch. Her hand stayed rummaging in her purse like she was reaching for the Holy Grail, or something far stupider. I stepped out onto the porch. Karen tucked her phone away and paused. Then she drew a small handgun from her bag. Not a serious one, not even a good one. The flimsy kind they sell to people who believe danger is hiding between the clearance racks at a supermarket. She pointed it straight at Mark. "Step away from the supplies. You're trespassing on private HOA." "Karen, this isn't your..." A crack ripped through the air. A bird burst out of a pine like it had been launched. Mark jerked backward, the log slipping from his hands. I froze. The world narrowed to a tunnel. The silence came back, but this time it felt predatory. Mark dropped to one knee, clutching his shoulder. "I'm good." "Just a graze," he hissed, though he definitely did not look good. "Are you out of your mind?" I yelled, sprinting toward him. The sharp stink of gunpowder hung in the cold morning air. Karen held the gun like she just rescued an entire village with a single heroic shot. Her voice shook, not from fear, but from smug triumph. "I told you there were suspicious men on the property. I neutralized the threat before authorities arrived. You shot my friend." I snapped. "On my land." That's when I heard it. Sirens, faint but growing, weaving through the mountain roads. Perfect. She had actually called them. Karen slipped the gun back into her purse like she had simply completed her morning checklist. "Good. The police can handle this. You're both being removed for non-compliance." Something inside me shifted, not rage, clarity. Because if Pine County deputies were on the way, they knew me, and they knew exactly what my day job was. I headed for the cabin, grabbing my radio off the porch railing. "Dispatch, this is Command Echo. Officer involved incident. Civilian injured. requesting tactical support, non-lethal ready. Karen heard every syllable. She saw the gear bag by the door. She understood exactly who I was. Her face drained to pure chalk. You're SWAT?" she whispered. "Not just SWAT," I said quietly. "I run the team." And the sirens were almost on top of us now. They echoed through the forest, bouncing between trunks like alarm bells. Pine County deputies weren't known for quiet entries. They liked every creature within 3 miles to know they were rolling in. Karen stood stiff beside the woodpile, clutching her purse like it held state secrets instead of a bargain bin pistol. Mark sat on a stump, pressing one of my old flannels to his shoulder. He kept insisting he was fine, but his skin had that pale, rubbery look that screams I'm about to hit the dirt. Please pretend I'm tough. 2 patrol trucks fishtailed to a stop in my driveway, gravel arcing like sparks. Deputy Cole jumped out first, hand hovering near his holster until he recognized me. "Ah, hell," he muttered, hurrying over. "Echo what went down." I pointed at Karen, who tried to shrink herself into some pathetic image of innocence despite the unhinged chaos buzzing off her like static. She trespassed, threatened Mark, and fired a live round. Cole exhaled the tired sigh of a man who has handled Pine Ridge nonsense one too many times. "Ma'am, is that accurate?" Karen immediately launched into full theater mode. "Officer, these men were breaking HOA regulations, building illegal structures, and acting in a threatening manner. I feared for my safety. I tried to warn them." "You shot him." I cut in, pointing directly at Mark. "That's just your interpretation," she snapped. Cole dragged a hand down his face. "Ma'am, hand over your weapon." "My why? What for?" "I'm going to pretend you didn't ask that," he sighed. But before the situation could crawl back toward sanity, my radio crackled. "Command Echo. Tactical arriving at your location. ETA 30 seconds. Cole's eyebrow shot up. "You called your whole unit for this?" "She shot Mark," I replied, "and she isn't acting alone." Cole blinked hard. "What do you mean, not alone?" I shifted my gaze toward the trail leading from Pine Ridge. Leaves rustled. Footsteps dozens. Then, like a deranged marching band, half the Pine Ridge HOA board spilled into my clearing. Matching windbreakers. Clipboards. Cell phones recording like they were documenting a nature documentary. Their president, Mr. Howerin, stepped forward and barked. "This entire zone is under HOA review. Disarm yourselves and vacate immediately." Cole stared. I stared. Even Mark stared, though the effort probably hurt like hell. And right on cue, my SWAT truck burst through the tree lane, lights blazing. The HOA board gasped in collective horror. "Everyone on the ground!" one of my guys shouted. Karen's face collapsed into pure existential terror, and I realized this chaos was only warming up. The clearing erupted, not outward, but inward, like everyone's understanding of reality suddenly imploded. My team flowed out of the armored truck in tight formation, helmets catching the light, rifles down in non-lethal stance. They didn't point them at anyone, but they absolutely didn't need to. The HOA board folded like frightened decorative yard birds. Howerin immediately ducked behind 2 board members, clutching his clipboard like a medieval shield. This is all a mistake. We're conducting a community compliance inspection." Torres, one of my officers, stepped forward. "Sir, you're 50 yards beyond your jurisdiction, and half of you are trespassing. Also," he pointed directly at Karen, "one of your members fired a weapon and injured a civilian." Karen slowly lowered herself to the ground. "Hands up. I thought I was protecting community safety," she whimpered. Cole shook his head like his soul had left his body. "Ma'am, you protected absolutely nothing." I moved toward Mark as my unit's medic knelt beside him. "You're lucky," the medic muttered after a quick look. "Graze, like you said, but you're not doing push-ups for a while." Mark managed a lopsided grin. Tragedy. Meanwhile, the HOA board began turning on itself. "We told you Karen was too eager," one hissed. "You approved her," another snapped back. Then Howerin puffed himself up again. "You can't detain us. We're a governing body." Torres blinked slowly. "Of what?" "Sidewalk color palettes." Normally I keep things professional, but exhaustion and adrenaline sand off your filters. I step between them. You stormed private land after one of your group shot someone. You dragged half your board out here to inspect a cabin you have zero authority over. You escalated a situation you created. Aaron stammered. Sir, I added, be grateful this ends with paperwork instead of a helicopter. That shut him down instantly. In the end, Cole cuffed Karen for reckless endangerment and trespassing. The rest of the board was escorted back toward Pine Ridge with enough shame to fuel a decade of neighborhood gossip. As sirens faded and my team packed up, the forest finally exhaled, quiet, steady, resetting itself. Mark nudged me with his good arm. So, think they'll send a fruit basket? I snorted. If they do, Bomb Squad checked it first. And just like that, the mountains went back to being mountains. No HOA, no clipboards, just silence, the kind I've been seeking all along. If this story resonates, tap like. It tells the algorithm you stand with folks who won't be pushed around. Subscribe to Karen's Hub for more moments where real people push back and win. And tell me in the comments, faced with chaos like this, what would you have done?